Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Jim's Movie Musings, in which I won't be giving the usual review, but instead, something that's been on my mind since I watched Spider Man No Way Home about a week ago. And no, I'm not breaking my promise to not review Marvel movies or Star Wars movies or overly popular movies on this channel. No, this is not a review, okay? Rather, it's a reflection on the fact that in Spider Man No Way Home, Ned Leeds' Lola spoke Tagalog for a fairly substantial bit of time for a bit role, and what it means for us Filipinos and for the use of Tagalog in Hollywood features. Yeah, I know a lot of you are probably groaning and saying, oh God, not another video on representation, or oh God, not another self important Filipino talking about themselves in a bit role, blah blah blah. You know what? If you're of that mindset, then get lost. Okay, this video isn't for you. It is, however, for the people who are interested to know what I'm talking about, because for those of you who are curious, Tagalog has been in Hollywood movies for quite some time. And I gotta be honest, not in the most flattering way. Okay, I know it's been around for ages, considering that the Philippines was colonized by the United States back at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. So from 1899 up until 1946, the Philippines was an American colony. And so, as you may imagine, Tagalog inevitably bled over into the American the language, basically. I mean, you ever heard the word boondocks? That came from the Tagalog bundok. This isn't a Tagalog lesson, though, I'd like to be clear. But it is a reflection on how Ned's Tagalog speaking Lola is, as sad as this is to say, the most, shall we say, the best so far use of Tagalog that we've seen in a Hollywood movie, in the sense that it's the first use of Tagalog we've seen by someone who isn't a blue collar worker, or who isn't a savage tribal native. Okay, well, what the heck am I talking about? Okay, allow me to walk you through some highlights of Hollywood and its very strange relationship with Tagalog. Okay, starting with a clip from 1983's little known film, Return of the Jedi. Check this out.
Ngayon, puno daw to. Makanta.
Okay, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Okay, C3PO is talking to his companions whilst they've been captured by the Ewoks, and one of the Ewoks says, and I quote, "Ngayon, puno daw to." This is not a coincidence, folks. That Ewok was speaking Tagalog. He's a little primitive man. You know, they don't know anything about these wonderful advanced aliens, especially their the golden man leading them. Okay? And they speak to each other in Tagalog. And that's not even the last sequence where you hear the Ewoks uttering Tagalog. Check this out during the battle for Endor.
Patay.
Yeah, that's right. You heard him right. He said patay. Okay, so the Ewoks speaking Tagalog is most likely not the first ever instance of Tagalog being spoken in a Hollywood movie. Like I said, we were colonized by the Americans for 50 years. So I'm sure the use of Tagalog in their movies goes back even farther. And I'm sure we were humiliated in many other ways in their film. Okay, but that's arguably the most prominent that's probably the most prominent instance in American pop culture. Okay? But it doesn't end there. I now direct you to Exhibit B, the 1989 little scene film by Bruce Beresford called Her Alibi, starring Tom Selleck and a then super smoking hot Polina Poritskova. Well, who am I kidding? She's still hot. Anyway, check out this scene in which the character played by Polina Poritskova talks to the cook.
Where is everybody?
Ewan ko, hindi ko alam. Ang hirap sa'yo. Layas ka ng layas. Kaya hindi mo alam kung ano nangyayari rito. Lahat ng mga tao nangamatay na rito sa niluto. Mabuti hindi ako kumain. Merang suka. Hindi na alam kung anong gagawin. Mabuti pa, mamatay na rin ako. Eh, nako, hindi na ganun.
Okay. Now, little bit of context for the non-Filipinos watching this. The cook is basically berating Polina Poritskova's character for wandering off while the family consumes something that makes them sick, excuse me. And so she's basically ranting and raving in Tagalog, okay, which is basically played for laughs, okay. To the audiences who don't know Tagalog, it's probably supposed to be funny because, hey, look, we don't understand what the she's saying. So that's about the extent of the humor. For Filipinos, of course, in a strange, perverse way, we found it funny too. Even though in that movie, the Filipino is basically the household helper. Creates a stereotype, perpetuates a stereotype, whatever. Anyway, we were just so happy to hear the Tagalog in the movie that, that when that movie came out in 1989, yeah, I'm old, sue me. That movie came out in 1989. It had an extended run in Philippine movie theaters. And in fact, in the newspapers, remember those? We used to read those. In the newspapers, they would post ads for that movie. If you haven't seen this movie, check it out, especially the Filipina. So she became a selling point here. That was fine, that wasn't particularly objectionable, but it was just kind of sad. That the one character speaking Tagalog is the cook. Oh, and by the way, in that movie, okay, Tom Selleck and his family lived in typical Hollywood opulence, okay? She was the cook in a big-ass house, okay? But moving on. Doesn't even end there. I now give you another kind of big-budget Hollywood movie, not a little scene one like Her Alibi. No. I give you 1996's The Rock, okay, directed by Michael Bay. Check out this scene. Again with the cooks, okay? So for the record, you have Sean Connery being chased by a bunch of CIA, FBI agents, basically by a bunch of G-men, and crashing through a kitchen, only for one of the chefs to scream, "Hayop, putang ina!" Okay, I don't know how many people picked up on that. I did. It wasn't quite as prominent as the cook in Her Alibi. It didn't become a subject of a marketing campaign to get more people to see that movie. But come on, anyone who speaks Tagalog knows what that was. Okay. So, okay, now you have a bit of context. Now you can see that over the years, and I'm sure there are many more instances of Tagalog in movies. And I'm almost willing to bet that most of them are played for laughs, most of them are uttered by blue-collar workers, and most of them are uttered without any real development of that specific character. Okay? So, yeah, mainstream Hollywood has had, let's just say it really, really bluntly, an ugly relationship with the Tagalog language. Mainstream Hollywood has depicted Tagalog as being the language of primitives or blue-collar workers. And that's a fact. And you right-wingers can deny it all you want, but that's just the way it's been for the last several decades. Until Ned's Lola, in the biggest goddamn movie of 2021, got to scold both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in the Tagalog language. Okay, I can't post the scene here, obviously, because, the movie's still being in theaters. It's not exactly online right now, unless you want me to post some grainy YouTube. Okay? But the bottom line is that Ned's Lola is a watershed moment in Tagalog depicted in a mainstream Hollywood movie. Because Ned's Lola is an authority figure. Ned's Lola lives in a big-ass house. Ned's Lola raised the parents who raised Ned to be a genius. I mean, Ned may be a goofball, but he's a genius goofball who could hack into Tony Stark's freaking suit. So Ned's Lola is badass. Ned's Lola is a boss. And Ned's Lola speaks Tagalog. And I know there are a lot of you Gen Xers, just like me, who saw every single one of those moments that I just described for you, whether it's Return of the Jedi, Her Alibi, The Rock. There are probably some of you who've seen even more moments in Hollywood that are even more cringeworthy, even more humiliating to Tagalog speakers everywhere. And I hope you feel just as vindicated and just as gratified as I did that Ned's Lola had a boss moment in Spider-Man No Way Home. And that there continue to be more boss moments. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll get an actual Tagalog-speaking hero and not some freaking sidekick. It could happen. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Dave Bautista is half Filipino. Who knows? Maybe we'll meet Drax's. Maybe we'll head to Drax's planet one day where everyone speaks Tagalog. You never know. But the point is, everyone can rave about No Way Home being awesome, which it is. And it's undisputed. It is awesome. But for me, for my part, apart from the fact that I love that movie, it fulfilled all of my childhood dreams about a Spider-Man movie, I take additional satisfaction from knowing that for the first time in decades, Tagalog was spoken in a mainstream Hollywood movie by someone who was actually a boss. Thank you, Sony. Thank you, Marvel, for this moment. And thank you guys for sitting through this video. It's actually pretty long. Okay? And that's it for this video, this non-review. I'll be back with my usual content real soon. Okay? And I hope you liked it. And I dare you guys, especially any new subscribers who may have been intrigued what I had to say, give me a like and a subscribe and hit that notification bell.